So we're currently in the NBA Conference Finals. We got 4 teams that still believe they can win an NBA championship, and we got 26 teams at home that are already planning for this upcoming offseason, either shaking up their roster throughout trades, the draft, or the NBA free agency market. So today we're going to talk about every team in the NBA and one thing I think they should do in the 2025 offseason. And like always, you can let me know if you agree or disagree with what I say with your favorite team down below in the comments. So let's start things off with the LA Lakers. They made a massive shakeup to their roster currently and for the future by trading away Anthony Davis and Max Christie for Luka Doncic. So we know that they need to add a center this offseason. There's a couple good ones in free agency that could just catch alley-oops, set screens for Luka, LeBron, and Reeves. That's basically the goal. That could be Clint Capella, Charles Bassey, or maybe they can lure Miles Turner away from Indiana. That is going to be tough, so maybe they have to go to the trade market as well. They could still talk about the Mark Williams trade idea that basically happened at the trade deadline, or they can call up Brooklyn and try to get Nick Claxton. Either way, they desperately need another rim protector. They can't afford to put Jackson Hayes out there in a playoff series again. For the LA Clippers, I want them to draft a young point guard, and there's a plethora of them here in the NBA draft, and they own their first round pick, and they can go for an offensive point guard as well. James Harden isn't going to be around forever. This team has a good defensive core right now, but they need to add some offense going forward. I really like that they targeted Todd Pettiford with the 30th overall pick in this NBA draft, a very crafty scoring lefty, and has one of the best floaters in this draft class as well. They could look at LeBaron Philon from Alabama, reminds me of a little bit of a bigger version than Rob Dillingham from last year's draft class, or they can go the international route and get Ben Serif, who could slow the game down and get his teammates involved. Either way, I wanted them to draft a point guard who then can get mentored by James Harden. Not a bad guy to get mentored by. For the Sacramento Kings, they need to hit somewhat of a reset right now. The NBA around them is getting so much better, and they're in a loaded and a gauntlet of a Western Conference. They unexpectedly had to trade away De'Aaron Fox at the deadline. I think they should definitely at least trade away DeMar DeRozan this offseason. Maybe there isn't going to be as robust of a market for Zach LaVine or Domantas Sabonis, but I do feel like there's going to be a team desperate enough to try to get DeMar DeRozan, who's still a fine scoring wing right now. Maybe the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks, who don't own their draft picks next year. Maybe Miami would be interested in DeMar DeRozan, as they've been interested in him in the past. Either way, Sacramento needs to move off of DeMar DeRozan, allow some more minutes for some of their younger guys, and hit a little bit of a reset going into the future in a post-De'Aaron Fox era. The Golden State Warriors have to sign and trade Jonathan Kuminga. He just does not fit this team currently, and we know that it's not going to change too much next year. It's going to be Draymond, Jimmy Butler, and Steph at the top. I don't think that they're going to have the assets to lure Giannis Antetokounmpo in a trade, so you can sign and trade Jonathan Kuminga this offseason and land somebody that just fits this team a lot better. If you want a floor spacing 5 and a little bit of an upgrade over Quinn and Post, you can get Nikola Vucevic from the Bulls, or maybe you can call up the Washington Wizards, try to get Corey Kispert in a sign and trade for Jonathan Kuminga, or maybe you could just get Anthony Simons from the Portland Trailblazers and just fits this half-court system so much better. We know that Steve Kerr loves to play 3 guards at a time out there, so if they can pull off some type of Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade for a floor spacing 5, something they desperately wanted in the Steph Curry era, or just another really good shooting backcourt member, they should pull the trigger. The Phoenix Suns have to trade Kevin Durant this offseason. They cannot afford to run 80% of this team back next year, because I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs with a healthy Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. We're going to be going on to year 3 of what ifs with this team. They have no center depth right now. They don't have a good young core whatsoever. You can get it out right now by trading away Kevin Durant. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a bidding war, and you can get maybe a little bit more than what he's worth right now, because he's an expiring contract that's 36 years old. If you can get maybe a pick back or 2 from the Houston Rockets, if you can get a young player or 2, I would do it. You're not going to win it all next year with Kevin Durant. He's not going to be in the NBA in a couple of years. Cash in now while you still can. The Knicks don't have a lot of flexibility this offseason. They're a first apron team. A lot of their players are under contract for the 2026 season. They don't own a first round pick, but they do own a second round pick from the Memphis Grizzlies, since they had to forfeit their second rounder from the Jalen Brunson tampering a couple off seasons ago. I think they just got to draft a defensive wing that can at least contribute in a small workload next year. You could target Zion James from Duke, an absolute bruiser that can guard multiple positions. Chaz Lanier, who measured out very well at the combine from Tennessee, or even a Due Theroux from Arkansas, somebody that is a great transition defender and can run up and down the floor. The Knicks desperately need a defensive wing off the bench. I don't think Bakomi Dadiet is ready, or I don't know if Kevin McCullough is going to get that many minutes next year. I would like for the Brooklyn Nets to still rebuild even more. Trade your veterans like Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton this offseason, cash in on those guys while their value is still fairly high, and draft upside in the 2025 NBA draft. I would like for them to target some of those guards that have high boom or bust potential, like Ben Serif, Nolan Traore later in the first round, or maybe target Jeremiah Fears there in the top 10. Go after guys like Carter Bryant and Thomas Sorber, guys that can really work out for you in the long run, or maybe consolidate some of your picks. You don't need to add 4 rookies to your team right now. Adding 2 or 3 is just fine, and you can maybe trade up as well. For the Celtics, you got to get under the second apron, so you really have to figure out 2 paths you're going this offseason. Are you doing a full reset and trading away Jaylen Brown, or do you trade off some of the other guys as well? Continue to build around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown after Tatum is fully back. So trading away Drew Holiday, I think there'll be a fine enough market to at least get off of that deal, which may be a blessing in disguise because I don't think it's going to age the best. Kristaps Porzingis has a 1-year, $30 million deal remaining. That should be easy to trade just because it's an expiring contract. And there should be a market for Sam Hauser, who's a fine enough defender, a really good 3-point shooter. You can get an out and maybe be a lottery team in 2026, and you can add a top-end talent to a Jason Tatum return in the 2027 season. I think it'd be wise for the Philadelphia 76ers to trade down in the NBA draft. I think Ace Bailey is worth taking the risk, but I would really like if they were able to get another veteran, add to this depth even more, and get somebody like a Con Knipple or an upgrade at the backup center spot in Derek Queen or Kaman Maluwatch, and get somebody like a Cam Johnson or Herb Jones in the trade market right now, because I do think the 76ers team can at least be competitive in a wide open Eastern Conference with or without Paul George and Joel Embiid next year. I'm very high on the McCain, Maxey, and Quentin Grimes trio. I really liked what I saw from Justin Edwards and Adem Bona this season. You bring back Ersan Yabusele as well. I think even if you're playing Joel Embiid for 50 games next year, you could definitely be a playoff team with, like I said, how wide open the Eastern Conference is right now. So get more depth and you can still get a good long-term asset with the 5th or 8th overall pick in this draft. For the Toronto Raptors, I would like to see them add either one of the big name big men in this draft in Derek Queen or Kaman Maluwatch. I'm really excited and intrigued to see how Brandon Ingram looks out there with Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett and how they're going to gel, because it could go very well for them or it could go horribly wrong. And I'm really excited to see what Masai Ujiri has been cooking up. Wonder if they're going to be a dark horse Giannis team this offseason. Either way, play it safe. Take Kaman Maluwatch if he's on the board. Let him learn a couple years behind Jakob Poeltl, and you can have a really good defensive front court going forward with Scotty and Kaman. Something I'm not sure they're going to do, but I do believe the Dallas Mavericks should draft Cooper Flagg #1 overall and not Con Knipple. I'm just kidding. I just have no idea what Nico Harrison is ever going to do anymore. But yeah, I'd like to think that they're going to take Cooper Flagg #1. I think they should explore the PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford trade markets this offseason, and they got to add a veteran point guard until Kyrie Irving is back. There's plenty of them in free agency. Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Dennis Schroeder, Tyus Jones is maybe my favorite fit there until Kyrie can come back. And the Dallas Mavericks could legitimately make a run in the playoffs next year if they're fully healthy and Cooper Flagg can live up to what he's expected to do, and I believe he will. For the San Antonio Spurs, I don't think they need to trade for Giannis right now, but if they do want to make a push in the 2026 season, they could trade Kevin Durant and not have to give up the 2nd overall pick. You could dangle Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, number 14, and maybe an additional 1st or 2, so you're able to keep Devin Vassell. You can draft Dylan Harper with the 2nd overall pick, and you're adding one of the more polished and best overall scorers in NBA history to Victor Wembanyama in that front court. It could still open up the paint, because if you get Giannis, you kind of have to play him at the 5 spot, and if they can get Giannis, hey, get Giannis. You can't really turn getting somebody of that caliber down, but honestly, I do like the idea of them taking Dylan Harper at #2, who would go #1 overall in some other drafts, and now you could just have a deeper roster, and you can add a future Hall of Famer back to the state of Texas, where he played collegiate basketball at. We'll stay in the state of Texas here for the 3rd team in the row, the Houston Rockets. I think they should go after a big name this offseason. You never know what your team can look like in a few years, so if they can get Devin Booker from the Phoenix Suns, I would love that fit on this Houston Rockets team. Could you get Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics? Would they make him available? Go after Kevin Durant or go after Giannis Antetokounmpo especially, and go all in with this team right now, because you could go out and get Giannis and give up all those assets to get him and still be just fine going forward with a decent amount of draft capital. You have so much depth of young talent in Şengün, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Reed Shepard, Cam Whitmore, the 10th overall pick in this draft, some future Suns and Nets picks. You're going to be okay if you give up a haul for Giannis going forward, because they also still have some nice veterans like Fred VanVleet and his team option and Dylan Brooks. And the team I struggle with the most figuring out what they should do this offseason, the Memphis Grizzlies, because it does feel like they were the Oklahoma City Thunder a couple years ago. They had the brightest future in the Western Conference. They lost in round #2 to the Golden State Warriors. Then they were the 2 seed the following year, but lost in round 1 to the LA Lakers, and it's been going downhill ever since. Jaren Jackson Jr. may get a massive contract extension this offseason. Dylan Brooks is getting paid a ton. John Morant's getting paid a ton. I think I would test the Ja Morant trade waters. I'm not saying I would trade him. I'm just seeing what the value is out there for him, and if you could do a little bit of a reset, because I'm not really sure what value you'd get back for Desmond Bane. I don't want to trade away Jaren Jackson Jr. right now. I would just see what you can get back for Ja Morant, and if it's an offer you can't refuse, I think you have to pull the trigger. For the Pelicans, I'd reshuffle their roster even more and just kind of go all in on this young core. I wouldn't trade away Zion Williamson. I don't think you're going to get good enough value. I'd rather just roll the dice for somebody you invested so much time, money, and resources into and hope he could stay healthy this year. I would trade CJ McCollum's expiring. He was pretty solid last year, and I do think there'd be a good enough market for him. I would like for them to draft a point guard in the top 10 as well, since DeJounte Murray is going to be hurt going forward. One of these two guys will be there in Jeremiah Fears from Oklahoma or Kasperi Shakuchonis from Illinois. For the Bulls, I would like for them to enter into a more of a proper rebuild, so I would trade away Kobe White. I know Bulls fans do not want to hear that. I expect them to bring back Josh Giddey this offseason, and I'm fine with that because he could be the lead initiator and point guard and just get the younger guys involved going forward. But if the Bulls want to contend over the next few years, they're going to have to hit rock bottom record-wise, and something they've not really done over the last few years. They've been in NBA purgatory. They need to have the best chance at getting somebody like an AJ Debinsa, Cameron Boozer, or Darren Peterson in next year's draft, because if they're picking at number 11 again and they go 39 and 43, what good is that going to do for you? So I would trade Kobe White while the value is very high right now, and you can get a really nice long-term return. For the Pacers, this is an easy one. They're currently playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. Bring back Miles Turner. I think they could have been a dark horse Kevin Durant team before the NBA playoffs, but now that they're in the conference finals with a chance to go to the NBA finals, you want to bring back most of this roster. They're going to be a deep tax team next year, so I hope their ownership is willing to pay into that. Maybe they have to trade away somebody like a Jarris Walker or a TJ McConnell to shed up the money for the cap sheet going forward, but you got to bring back Miles Turner. He's been there since 2015. He is the Indiana Pacer right now, in my opinion. For Milwaukee, you got to go in two directions, right? You either trade Giannis or you don't trade Giannis. But if you're not trading Giannis, you have to tell Giannis, we're not going to be good next year in 2026. We're going to try to stay competitive, so we're not giving up a good draft pick in 2026. But we can't go after somebody like Bradley Beal or Paul George or anything like that, since Damian Lillard is out for the year. But I would trade Giannis. I really would if I was in charge and he was okay with it. Now, if Giannis wants to say, sure, we want to continue to build around him. He likes it here in Milwaukee. We won a title in 2021. But Giannis has to realize that we're probably not going to be competing for a title again until at least 2027 or maybe 2028 when he's 32 and 33 years old. Because if he's not on board with that, yeah, we're going to trade him this offseason to the highest bidder, and it's going to be probably one of the Texas teams. I would like for Detroit to add just another veteran shooter on this team. I don't expect them to re-sign both Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dennis Schroeder. I expect one of them to walk. Why not take a flyer on CJ McCollum's expiring contract? I don't think it would cost much and could really improve the floor spacing around Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. Maybe you call Boston, see what the market is for Drew Holiday. You could just give up the Tobias Harris expiring contract, and you have another good veteran here that can take you to the next step in the 2026 playoffs. Maybe call Brooklyn and try to get Cam Johnson. I want to see them add another proven veteran, better than like Tobias Harris in 2026. And the Cavs need to get under the second apron this offseason. I would really think about trading Jared Allen. I think the value is very high for him, but now this is 3 straight playoff runs where him and Evan Mobley does not feel like you can get the best out of each two in a 7-game playoff series. You can get a really nice return for Jared Allen, recoup some draft capital, and you still have Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley and DeAndre Hunter in a really good team going forward. And if you don't want to trade away Jared Allen, I assume Max Strus or Isaac Okoro would be on the move. I believe the Utah Jazz should trade away Lauri Markkanen. I would bottom out even more for this team. I know ownership or maybe the fan base does not want to hear that, but I don't think Lauri Markkanen serves a great purpose on this team right now. The contract is getting very expensive, and I do think you could find a team that is willing enough to pull the trigger on Markkanen this offseason. You could recoup some draft capital and really lean into the young core who you're going to draft at number 5. Hopefully it's Trey Johnson or somebody like that. And you got Keontae George, you got Isaiah Collier, you got Walker Kessler, Taylor Hendricks, Bryce Sensabaugh. See with what you got right now, you're going to have multiple first-round picks in this year's draft and just continue the rebuild. They probably should have traded him last offseason in hindsight. I would like for the Portland Trailblazers just to stay the course. I really like what they're building over there. Trade away DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle if you can. And I would also trade away Anthony Simons as well. I'm not opposed to them going guard or a shooter there with the 11th overall pick. Maybe Jace Richardson from Michigan State, or maybe go a high upside wing in Carter Bryant. Either way, trade Anthony Simons. He's in the last year of his deal. Shooting's a premium in the NBA, and you can get a nice return for him, and that can allow more touches and shots to Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and even Donovan Clingan next year. If I'm Denver, I am trading away Michael Porter Jr. Maybe this this is a year too late. You're probably going to lose some value on his contract as well. But if you're not going to want to go deep into the first apron and close to the second apron, trade away Michael Porter Jr. because you got to extend Christian Brown. A year later, you're going to have to maybe extend Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther. I wouldn't even mind attaching Peyton Watson to a Michael Porter Jr. trade if you can really get another great shot creator around Nikola Jokic and really try to maximize this window. I would go all in for Kevin Durant if you can pull it off. If I'm the OKC Thunder, hey, I expect them to win the NBA Finals this year, and even if they don't, they're going to be just fine next year as well. Just consolidate some of your draft picks. Maybe if you can move multiple first rounders to get somebody really good in this year's draft, you do so. You don't need to be drafting 2, 3, 4, 5 rookies every single year in the top half of this draft just for them to never play and sit on the end of the bench on this roster right now. So yeah, consolidate some of the picks this offseason because you're going to have some big financial decisions to make very soon. Shade's getting the Supermax. Chet and J-Dub are getting rookie extensions, so you're going to be a first apron team before you know it. No matter what happens in this series against the OKC Thunder, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves got to re-sign Julius Randle and Naz Reid. Yeah, you could be enticed about a Kevin Durant trade this offseason, and I would think about that for Randle, but if that's not on the table, I'm re-signing Randle. He was so good in this year's playoffs. He really turned around his playoff public perception because how bad he was in New York, but there was injuries, a lack of help around him, and he's been so good this year in 2025. Naz Reid is obviously a fan favorite, so I would be okay letting Nickeil Alexander walk because I do think you can get somewhat of a replacement in this draft in Nick Clifford or Rasheer Fleming, and you can get more minutes to Jalen Clark and Terrence Shannon Jr. next season. I think the Miami Heat should just trade their veterans if they can. Trade everybody on this roster not named Kel'el Ware, Nikola Jovic, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero. I would honestly even see the trade market for Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo if it makes sense for you right now. You own your first round pick in the 2025 draft. It's lottery protected in 2026, and then it goes to Charlotte in 2027. You don't own your first round pick this year, but you own Golden State's. Yes, the Eastern Conference is wide open, but I just don't love this team right now, even if they get somebody like Kevin Durant this offseason. So I think they should take a little bit of a step back and be okay picking in the lottery in 2026 and really reshuffle their identity going forward in the post Jimmy Butler era. Just stay the course here if you're the Charlotte Hornets. I would see the Mark Williams trade market again. Could you work out another deal with the LA Lakers, or is that just kind of over with after the trade was rescinded at the deadline? I think there could be a market for Mark Williams. I would trade away Miles Bridges. I think there would be a market for him this offseason. I would even think about testing the LaMelo Ball trade waters. I'm not saying trade away LaMelo. I'm just saying if there's a good enough return, I would think about it, and you're going to hopefully be bad in 2026. Maybe you'll get a little bit more lottery luck, but just draft guys that can contribute, like VJ Edgecombe. Build up a young core because you whiffed in the 2021 draft and taking James Bouknight and Kai Jones. I think Mark Williams has been a fine draft pick and they did well in 2023, but you just got to build up this core right now, and T-John Salon may be 2 years away from being 2 years away. I would like for the Washington Wizards to add a veteran point guard this offseason in free agency and maybe get one throughout the draft. I love them picking up veterans like Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart last year at the deadline. Way better veterans than Kyle Kuzma. I would trade away Jordan Poole if there's an offer out there for him, but you can go after somebody like Chris Paul. Hey, he was a Wizard for like a minute in that Jordan Poole Bradley Beal trade swap a couple off seasons ago. I would target Jeremiah Fears or Kasperi Shakachonis in the draft as well. Let's just get a point guard that can get Bilal and Sar the ball next year. The Orlando Magic, you already know what I'm going to say. They got to add some shooting. They could do that in the draft with Jace Richardson or the trade market with Anthony Simons, who they definitely have enough assets for, or even Kobe White if they want to go after a bigger name. And lastly, for the Atlanta Hawks, I'm okay just drafting size and more freak athletes in this class. You have great 3-and-D assets around Trae Young and Dyson Daniels, Zachary Sachet, and Jalen Johnson. I'd like them to target maybe Thomas Sorber out of Georgetown in this draft as well, somebody with really good long-term potential as a rim-protecting 5. So that's going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know if you agree with the one thing I think each NBA team should do this offseason, and if you disagree, let me know what you think your favorite team has to do this offseason. If you did enjoy the video, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already, because we're going to be dropping content all offseason long, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.